Welcome to the Explainer. I am so incredibly excited about today's topic because we're looking at an invisible force that you probably interact with all the time without even realizing it. We're talking about the secret science of menu engineering. You might think you're totally in control when you order dinner, but today we're going to see how your dining choices are carefully guided by a mix of psychology, visual design, and math. So picture this. You sit down at a nice restaurant, you look at the menu, and you decide to order this beautiful $38 steak, maybe preceded by a warm, comforting bowl of Grammy's matzo ball soup. Sounds absolutely fantastic, right? But here is the big question. Was that really your random, spontaneous craving? Or were you expertly engineered to make exactly that choice? To answer that, we're diving into an incredibly detailed micro-credential module on menu engineering and development. Specifically, we'll be looking at Module 2, which is all about designing and balancing a restaurant menu. This source material really pulls back the curtain on how the hospitality industry balances operational efficiency and pure profitability with customer satisfaction. It is literally the academic playbook for restaurant success. Okay, let's dive into this. Our agenda today is structured just like the training module itself. First up, the silent salesperson. Number 2, mapping the golden triangle. 3, the psychology of pricing. 4, copywriting for profit. 5, the math, stars, and dogs. And finally, number 6, test your engineering skills. All right, section 1, the silent salesperson. We need to look at the menu as a strategic tool. Because the core philosophy here is that a menu is absolutely not just a simple list of dishes. It's a highly strategic silent salesperson designed to maximize revenue, all while keeping you, the diner, blissfully unaware. Moving right along to section 2, mapping the golden triangle. This is all about guiding the eye, because before we even read a single word on a menu, our eyes are taking a very, very predictable journey. According to cognitive science and menu engineers, the human eye follows a natural scan pattern when handed a menu. We definitely don't read it like a book. First, our eyes dart right to the middle of the page. Then they travel up to the top right corner. And finally, they cross over to the top left. This exact path is what the industry has dubbed the golden triangle. So the crucial point is that restaurants exploit this layout by treating these 3 zones as high-rent real estate. They do not put cheap or low-margin items here. The center, strictly for signature, highly profitable dishes. The top right is a premium spot for high-margin entrees. The top left, well, that's perfect for high-margin appetizers. And to make sure you really can't miss them, engineers use visual highlights. Like bold boxes, borders, or shading around these specific areas. It's like a giant neon sign for your brain. That brings us to section 3, the psychology of pricing. This is where we talk about manipulating numbers. Once your eyes have landed on a dish, the menu engineer has to make sure the price tag doesn't scare you away. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how dropping a mere 5 cents changes our entire perception of an experience. On the left, we have charm pricing, like $24.95. This anchors our brain to the 24, making it instinctively feel like a bargain. But on the right, flat, rounded numbers, like just a flat 25, convey an upscale luxury experience. It feels cleaner, more sophisticated, and way less like a discount. That the psychology goes even deeper. Research from places like Cornell University highlights a concept called the pain of paying. Basically, if you put a dollar sign next to a number, it actively reminds the guest's brain that they are losing money. By simply removing the currency cue entirely and leaving a naked number, just 24, it reduces that psychological friction and significantly increases a guest's willingness to spend. It's a real game changer. And then there's price anchoring. Have you ever seen an absurdly expensive item, like a $120 grand seafood tower, sitting right at the top of the menu? Well, that is often a decoy. The restaurant probably doesn't expect to sell many of them, but by putting it there, they reset your internal price expectations. Suddenly, that $38 steak sitting right below it feels incredibly reasonable. It's a total bargain by comparison. Next up, section 4, copywriting for profit. These are the words that sell. We've got the placement and the pricing down, but sensory words can actually trigger a literal physical response in diners. According to this source module, studies reveal that using strategic, evocative descriptions on a menu can boost the sales of a specific dish by up to 27%. That is a massive jump in revenue just from choosing better adjectives. I mean, think about it. And this brilliantly illustrates the point. Compare a generic chicken soup to Grammy's matzo ball soup. The evocative description triggers nostalgia. It paints a picture. Words like succulent, crispy, or a branded name like Jack Daniel's barbecue sauce increase our perception of quality and competence. Amazingly, the research notes that customers who order the evocatively named dish actually rate the meal as tasting better and being a better value after they eat it. The words literally change the flavor experience. Crazy, right? All right, moving to section 5. The math. Stars and dogs. Crunching the numbers. Because before any of this psychology can be applied, a menu engineer has to know exactly what to promote. This brings us to a hypercritical term, contribution margin. Listen, this isn't just about food cost percentages. Contribution margin is the actual hard cash dollars earned per plate that go toward paying the rent. The module states forcefully that 80% of restaurants fail at menu engineering because they skip calculating this exact cost down to the penny. You absolutely have to know your exact margin to play the game. Once they have that math, managers use a P-mix matrix, that's a product mix report, to categorize their entire inventory into 4 distinct buckets. This is basically the cheat code for running a profitable restaurant. First, you have your stars: high popularity, high profitability. You put these right in the golden triangle. Then, Plowhorses. These are popular but have low profit margins. You keep them, but monitor the ingredient costs. Next are puzzles. These have high profit but low popularity. People just aren't ordering them. And finally, dogs. Low profit, low popularity. These are the items you quietly prune from the menu. Section 6, test your engineering skills. Now we're getting to the practical simulation. In the actual module, trainees have to pass practical simulations just like this. So let's see how you do. Okay, here is your first scenario. You've done the math. You have a dish that is both highly popular and incredibly profitable, a true star. Thinking back to our visual layout mapping, where is the absolute best place on the menu to position this item? Well, if you guess the golden triangle, you hit the nail on the head. Specifically, the center or the top right corner of the page. And to be a true menu engineer, you wouldn't just casually put it there. You'd highlight it with a visual box or a shaded background to make absolutely sure the diner's eyes lock onto it. Remember, high-rent real estate is strictly reserved for your stars. Awesome! Now let's try a slightly harder one. A real-world restaurant problem. You have a puzzle dish. It has a fantastic contribution margin. It makes you great money, but it has really low popularity. Nobody is ordering it. So how do you save this dish? To fix a puzzle, you kind of have to trick the brain. You spend the most menu space on this item. You inject evocative, sensory, or nostalgic language into the description. Turn that generic soup into Grammy soup. And you might use strategic price anchoring, placing it near a heavily priced decoy so the puzzle suddenly looks like a phenomenal value. It's all about beefing up that appeal. And that brilliantly ties it all together. You now know the secrets of the golden triangle, the pain of paying, and the math of stars and dogs. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. The next time you sit down at a restaurant and confidently point to that perfectly described box-highlighted dish right in the top right corner of the menu, who is really doing the ordering, you or the menu engineer? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I bet you'll never look at a restaurant menu the exact same way again.